I had an NDE back in 1998. I grew up as a very fervent Buddhist. All around me, my friends and cousins and relatives and even classmates were mainly Christian, but I was very dedicated to Buddhism because both my grandparents and my parents were. I was seeking just answers to life questions and questions like why do I exist? Why do human beings exist? Why do good and evil exist? What happens after we die? And none of these gave satisfactory answers until, of course, I met God. But until then, I was seeking, spending anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day at the temple trying to reach nirvana. Yes, so I had a huge spiritual hunger that I could not fulfill. After I came to college here in Southern California, I ended up, like many kids, started experimenting with drugs and drinking a lot and just a normal party scene. I was never a bad kid, I don't think, but was in the party scene and ended up overdosing on a drug back in August and September of 1998. I was about to enter my sophomore year in college, and I hung out with a bunch of friends that we got high every day. And when one day right before I got back to school, I ended up smoking what's called a death bulb. That's a street slang word for uh, what looks like just normal marijuana, but it was laced with heroin, cocaine, and PCP and meth, whatever, anything to get you more high. And I stayed up for a straight 240 hours. I was up for 10 straight days, not even with 1 second of sleep. And yeah, so after 3, 4, 5 days, you start. I could not even read one sentence on the on my textbook. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know. I had no awareness of time, location, purpose. I was just kind of brain dead and sitting, and I became very desperate, very anxious, very confused. And then I ended up writing a letter to my mom because I had a visit from what now I know is an evil spirit or the devil. But to me at the time came as a old Asian grandpa with a beard, and he was speaking to me sort of like we're talking now, but manifest yourself in that form, told me that if I would offer my life as a sacrifice to him, he would grant me 50,000 less years of hell. That was the deal that we made. So I said, okay, that sounds like a good deal. A few minutes of earthly pain for 50,000 less years of eternal pain. So I went to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. And I got on my knees to do like a kiri kare with stomach. I didn't know how I'm gonna do it. I was just so afraid. My mom sees me preparing for this, and she calls 911. So I'm on my knees with the. I wrote a letter to her. I want to get this over with and go to heaven. I actually had no idea what happens. So I grabbed my to rush it because the cops came in. They said, "Drop the knife." The devil or the grandpa said, "Hey, you need to do it now. It's now or never." So I just went for it. They jumped on me and I lost a lot of my blood. The whole living room was covered in red because I apparently cut an artery. And the cops were whacking me with the bat, macing me, trying to get the knife out of my hand. I got way more injured. I'm laying in the stretcher now. They're taking me to the hospital, UCI Medical Center. And this is when I was going in and out of consciousness because I was just in so much pain. No sleep for 10 days. Arteries cut, whacked with a bat, maced. Spiritual, emotional, physical pain that I thought was the worst, but there was something worse coming. I had a OBE as I'm experiencing my NDE, where my spirit left my body and I see myself and I'm going in and out of consciousness. And instead of going up to heaven, which I thought would happen, I started sinking. It felt like I was in an elevator or a roller coaster. And I started just sinking, and what felt like 5 minutes of just fear and uncertainty and eternal death. And I land after falling and I look around and I'm not in heaven. And I don't believe in hell as a Buddhist. We believe in reincarnation back then. And I look around and the place is filled with people. I was not the only one there. Now I know it's the biblical hell. I don't know if he showed me the future of it or the present time of it, but I've never read about hell. I've never thought I would go there. But two things I knew instinctively as I landed in this place, and it was filled with fire, screaming. There was like a ball of chain going through my stomach. There were demons too that walking around in charge, and they're not the little imps you see, that cookie that you see in cartoons. These things were huge, way bigger than us. And I knew they were in charge. They were wearing capes. and it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I knew two things instinctively that I've never thought in my life. Number two, I knew I would never leave this place, that this was my eternal destiny. That feeling of separation from God, rejection, condemnation, guilt, and punishment is something I really hope and pray no other human being experiences. I believe the hell was created for the devil. So I'm in this place and just agonizing, and I would exchange any earthly pain and with pain in hell because it's just a lot more intense. It's a lot more real. It's a lot more tangible, and it doesn't go away. When I was at this place, um, I knew I made a big mistake. Um, but thank God, because my mom, being a loving mom, she called her only Christian friend at the time when she moved here, immigrated here to California, Mrs. Kim, and she called her pastor friends at Grace Ministries International in Fullerton, California, and they came over and they prayed for me in the emergency room, and not for just 5 minutes, but for 8 hours. And I had a surgeon who was tying up the blood vessels. Just I went through two operations because the first one was unsuccessful, and the specialist flew in at the right time, came in at the right time, was able to retie all the blood vessels that were cut. I opened my eyes, and voila, it's been 8 hours. But now I'm here in this emergency room, surrounded by ministers and pastors. And before I opened my eyes, I remember the Lord. I never saw him yet. I saw him in a couple seasons later. Uh, but he told me, I love you, and no more Buddhism and no more drugs. At the time, I had no idea what was happening or who he was, but I knew I made the connection when I opened my eyes because the first thing the pastor said there was, "Do you want to accept Jesus, Steve?" That was the question they asked me. I was like, "Yeah, I do." And so I said the sinner's prayer not once or twice or three times, but I said it 10 times that day. I kept reading it myself because I never wanted to go back there. Now I knew Buddhism was a lie because none of those monks helped me, and they never showed up when I needed them the most. Instead, Jesus showed up. Christians came, spirit-filled praying Christians. And here I was in September of 1998, a born-again Christian in the ER, and my journey as a believer started. I'm very grateful, very timely salvation from the Lord. In the summer of 1999, the Lord allowed me to have a visit to heaven, which I haven't read the parts of the book of Revelation yet, but it was exactly what was in the book of Revelation. And I was able to experience the heaven and hear the voice of God, which was a Bible verse, which was Jesus is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him, listen to him, listen to him. And I heard the audible voice of God through a verse, and it changed my life because I was still partying even after. I was like, it says in the Bible, God is merciful. Maybe I can get one more party in there, one more sip of beer in there, one more shot of tequila or whatever, another bong hit. But I got into car accident after car accident while I was trying to enjoy the world, and I got the message from God. And then I had that dream of heaven. So it kind of healed me from that trauma I was experiencing of seeing hell, of seeing heaven and hearing the Lord's voice. So I'm very grateful to experience both and to share with as many people as we can that there is life after death. It's just the beginning. Earth is a place we pass through. It says in the scriptures that we're pilgrims and aliens passing through earth, and that our eternal home is in heaven. That Jesus went ahead of us to prepare a place for us. So even though I was living here on earth, heaven became more real to me, and I was sharing the message of the gospel of Jesus, and the salvation he offers through the cross to his as many people as I could.